All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the October 11th, 2012 meeting of the Planning Commission. Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum with Commissioners Hagan, King, Goldsmith, Robbins, Hill, and myself. In attendance as well, we have Mr. Tyler Lohnert from the Duval County School Board, as well as Mr. Matthew Shellhorn from our military representative, seated to my left. Also in attendance to my far right are members from the City Planning and Development Department and a representative from the City Office of General Counsel. And to my far left over there is our assistant today, Ms. Pat Johnson, and our court reporter, Diane Tropia. Let us stand and recite with enthusiasm the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, it is important that an accurate record must be kept of the speakers and what is said. Everyone who wishes to speak before this commission must fill out a blue speaker's card, which are available at the back of the auditorium there. And if you would place them in the basket right up here beside Ms. Johnson, we'll be able to know who is speaking on which items. These cards will be used to determine if there's any opposition to any particular item which may affect the scheduling for the presentation of the items to be heard. The speaker's testimony is taken down by the court reporter, so it is important that participants speak clearly into the microphone, and only one person should speak at a time. Any tangible material submitted with the speaker's presentation, such as documents, photographs, plans, drawings, etc., which will be used in a presentation, will become a part of the public record and will be kept by this commission. Therefore, please retain a copy of anything submitted if it is needed. As a courtesy, please place any cell phones, pagers, or audible devices on silent mode. Items are generally addressed in the order in which they are listed on the agenda, which is located at the back of the room. However, items may be heard out of order for the sake of efficiency or to accommodate scheduling conflicts. This commission's bylaws provide that each member of the public who speaks before this commission is limited to a 3-minute presentation. A timer is available and will be used, so presentations must be focused and concise and should address only the item before us and limited to the criteria upon which our decision must be based. And if you look on the list, we'll go through the order here in a minute of the items to be heard today. Decisions by this commission on rezonings, including planned unit developments and land use amendments, are recommendations only. The recommendations are transmitted to the Land Use and Zoning Committee of the City Council, which ultimately votes on these matters. The Land Use and Zoning Committee may or may not follow the recommendations of the Planning Commission, so it is recommended that public hearing notices be checked for additional public hearing dates beyond today. Unless specifically deferred by the Land Use and Zoning Committee, items voted on by the Planning Commission today are heard before the Land Use and Zoning Committee the following Tuesday, which is going to be Tuesday, October 16th. And just as a note, the agenda that you have has Tuesday, November 6th as the date, and that's incorrect. So please make a note if you do have an item that you want to hear on the Land Use and Zoning part. They will be meeting on Tuesday, October 16th, which is going to be the following Tuesday. 5 days from today. And there will be another public hearing and vote there. The Land Use and Zoning Committee meets in these chambers here at 5 p.m. For any questions regarding a specific application, please see a Planning Department staff person seated to my right. At this time, I will ask the members of the Commission to address the minutes from a prior meeting dated September 27th, 2012.
Mr. Chairman, Commission, I move approval of the minutes of September 27th.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from September 27th, 2012. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That carries. All right, at this point, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to bring up the fact we have Jack Shad here from Chief of Parking for the city to address the commission regarding the parking passes and garage parking.
Okay. Do we want to go ahead and take that up now, or okay? Let's go ahead and do that real quick, if you don't mind, and then we'll go through the agenda just so we can get you on your way. But I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I'm Jack Shad from the Office of Public Parking. I'm starting a year-long effort to move a lot of the boards and commissions from the parking on the meters to parking in the nearest city-owned garage. And at this point, I'm sort of in the persuasion stage. So I'm going to ask if y'all would have any interest in having your free parking be at the library garage instead of on the meters. There are only 65 parking meters that are closer to this building than the front door of the library garage. It's covered, it's secure. I think it's better parking. It also helps us keep the meters available for more short-term users, paying users. So those are sort of the reasons I'd like to ask if y'all are interested in that option at this time, or if you want to get back with me later.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate kind of coming to help figure out sort of how the best works out. I think the one question that was kind of brought up is, as in sort of meetings that we had, this previous time where it went to 12:30 at night, what options there are for when that parking lot closes. Because, I mean, I think that's one of the only concerns is, if that lot does close at a certain time,
Okay.
is it, do we leave and have to move it, or kind of how that logistic works? Because that's sort of the one question I think that was brought up.
That garage, the library garage, you can always get back into with your spitter ticket. You can actually use it at the pedestrian entrance and be allowed to enter the little elevator lobby while the gates are closed to maintain the security. You'll be given a voucher stub, basically, that you'll put in after your spitter ticket that'll let you leave the garage without paying.
Okay.
And there won't be anybody there at midnight, but there is a call box.
But there's not an issue with getting out as far as it being
There's
locked
not-
up or shut down. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions that the commission has, or yeah?
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Shad. Matt and I are basically non-voting members of the commission, and we typically come when we have items that we need to address, but there are times that we may only be here for one item when we come and go, so we aren't staying for the entire meeting. And the convenience for us having the ability to be able to park a meter closer is much more convenient for Matt and I, as opposed to having to park in a garage, which is, a block and a half away, because there are times that we may only come for, just one item or two items and not stay here for the entire commission meeting. So that's one of the concerns that at least I had anyway. I don't want to speak for Matt, but we're kind of both in the same boat.
Okay. The entrance to the library garage is a half a block from here. Like I said, there's only 65 meters that are closer. Someone from the administrative side would be given the voucher tickets, and they could give them to you at any time. So you wouldn't have to stay till the end to get that. If the majority of people want to do it and there's a few that don't, we could maybe work out
Okay.
an arrangement like that. We're very flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only issue is that, and I haven't checked it, but I've got a truck that fits in maybe 50% of the garages around town. And so that's the only problem I'm getting into. If I pull up and you can't fit in,
Yeah.
where am I going from there? So that's the only issue. I don't mind. I mean, I'm do whatever's convenient for everybody else. So.
We can take a look at specific cases like that. The library garage is one of the newer garages, and it's more likely to accommodate a larger vehicle. The ones that are really tight are the ones from the 70s and 80s, some of the older city garages.
Yeah. Okay. What's the best way? Because I think if people have if any of the commissioners have specific questions, like you said, it sounds like there's some ability to look at, case by case things that come up. We may, I guess, reach out to you over the next few weeks. When's that decision going to be made? Do you know, or when that?
I mean, y'all can make the decision at any time you
Okay.
choose.
I mean, as much as we enjoy the parking passes, I do understand and can appreciate the fact that, having those meters free for the public is definitely a good thing. So, any other questions? Oh,
Mr. Chair, just one more thing for Mr. Shad. In the rare occurrence that the garage is full, what are our options?
At this point, unfortunately for the city, that garage is not in any danger of being full. It has about 300 spaces available on any given day. If it were full and you had to park on a meter, and you got a ticket, we could waive that retroactively, with a email from Sean that, yes, these people were attending the planning commission and they're on official business.
all right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you all.
Okay, at this point, we're going to go through the agenda, and just so everyone knows what will be heard and what will be withdrawn or deferred. Starting on page 2 at the top, item E 1163, we have had a request from the owner to withdraw this application. I know that there has been a lot of opposition as far as emails and communication that we've received. And so I want to open up the public hearing to give anyone a chance that may have an issue with us taking this, or with withdrawing this thing completely, where it's not going to be heard on or voted or acted on. If it is withdrawn, what it means is they are just stopping asking for this, and it's going to just continue to have whatever current zoning and exceptions that are in place. So understand, I'm going to open up the public hearing right now, but just as it's concerned to the withdrawal of this item, if anyone here has opposition or any problem with us voting on withdrawing it. I'm going to open up the public hearing on E 1163 as it relates to withdrawing this petition.
To the chair, there's a companion waiver as well.
Yeah, WLD 1215.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, and I will open up that one as well. And Ms. Johnson, do we have any speakers cards for this? A whole stack full? I would ask if there's anyone that wants to speak just to the withdrawal to approach the podium. If not, we'll just vote on this. Oh, yeah, I know. If you could just state your name and address for the record, and our court reporter will swear you in.
I'm Albert G. Cherry. I live at 8821 Ivy Road, Jacksonville, Florida, 32216.
Sir, would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
I would like to enter into the formal minutes the reason why I'm approaching y'all about this, okay?
Do you want to just hand that to our assistant there?
I'm the president of the Civic Association, which this falls within the boundaries of. We have fought this address. This will be the third time. They started off as a family-owned restaurant at 5,000 feet with beer and wine. Then they came back, and it was approved to give them another 5,000 feet to have a 10,000 square foot restaurant. The first night it was opened as the Bolero Club with their new expanded facility for the first Florida-Georgia game was when the patron was stabbed to death in the parking lot. This place has a history, and I'd like for you to read the language off of their Facebook, which is where I got this information I just presented to you, and you'll understand why we're so opposed to it. Now it's the icon.
Right. And we're not going to take up the
Okay.
opposition to it. I just want to understand if there's
I
any
don't want it.
comments or
I
not.
want you to please vote on the denial of this and not just pass it through. I want it on record that it's denied so that we don't come back 30 days from now and have this come up again. I'd like to have it killed at least for a year and give us a breather out there in our neighborhood because we keep fighting these things continually. Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. And just for the record, the applicant is the agent, I guess, is out of town today. So we wouldn't be able to have any comments from the agent if we do take this up.
Well, Mr. Chairman, am I understanding correctly that the applicant is withdrawing his application?
They're requesting withdrawal.
So there'd be nothing for us to vote on today,
No,
other than the withdrawal?
but from my understanding, the withdrawal has to be a motion that we make, and they can't just withdraw it once it's gone through the process. So we have to either vote to withdraw it or vote to hear it. And that's what we're sort of discussing right here today.
Okay, so if we voted to not withdraw it, it would be deferred to our next meeting.
Typically, the first time someone asks for a deferral, we grant it. In this case, with the agent not here, we would have to take that up for discussion. But those would be the options: would be to withdraw, defer, or act on it. So,
Okay. If I might, could everyone who's with me on this today, would they please stand up?
yeah, that actually would be very beneficial versus coming up. All right, just let the record reflect that maybe 30 heads of people are standing up out there.
Thank you for your time.
Rough estimate. No, thank you very much, sir, for your time. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify. The request has actually come from the attorney, Mr. Harden, indicating that the landlord, the shopping center owner, has withdrawn his consent to allow the tenants to pursue this application. So this is not a request from the Icon owners. It's from the shopping center owner.
Okay. All right. Anyone else to speak to the deferral? I mean, to the withdrawal of this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and just bring it back to the commission on discussion or a motion for whether this is withdrawn or we bring it up first on the agenda where it is.
Through the chair, Mr. Huxford, the withdrawal of the consent form leaves it without an agent to represent it. Would that be safe to say? It just means that the owner of the property no longer consents to any zoning action being taken upon the property. Thank you, Mr. Huxford. Commissioners, I'm ready for a motion unless there's any other discussion. Move withdrawal of application E1163.
I have a motion and a second to withdraw E1163. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move a similar withdrawal of application WLD 1215.
I have a motion and a second to withdraw WLD 1215. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries as well. Both of those applications are withdrawn. E1259, which is at the bottom of page 2, we will hear today, and it'll be taken up first as it is the order of the agenda. E1260 on the top of page 3 will also be heard today. Items 1 and 2 at the bottom of page 3 were deferred, and there's another request from the city council person in that area to defer them as well. From my understanding, everyone is in agreement on a settlement agreement for the two parties involved here in response to the citation that was offered, and they're working out the details. I guess, staff, is there anything else you want to add?
Just to follow up, it's my understanding that the district councilman intends to hold a town meeting 1 week from today, and on the items 2 and 3, this is for the R&R Auto site out there on Old Middleburg Road. And
Okay.
he'll be sending out notices, and then as a follow-up to that, we'll have a report for the Planning Commission in 2 weeks, and we'll see where we go.
Well, it's my understanding if the agreement in its current form is accepted, this will be just withdrawn. Is that correct?
There's a stipulation in the agreement that if it's signed by the judge and all parties have agreed to it, the city will withdraw the 2 applications.
Okay.
And LUZ would do that, and so it would just disappear from your agenda.
Okay. And have we brought up the point, if this does go forward to a hearing, that there would be any renoticing that happens due to the time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Given the amount of time that's lapsed, we would send out new notices if this did need to go forward.
Okay. So that's for items 1 and 2 at the bottom of page 3, as well as item 3 on the top of page 4. Sorry, item 1 at the bottom of page 3 is deferred because there's no report, not in conjunction with the other 2. Item 2 at the bottom of page 3 and item 3 on the top of page 4 are the 2 that we were speaking of that are deferred per the request. Continuing on page 4, in the middle of the page, item 1, 2012-507 is being deferred. There's no report on that item, so we will not hear it today. It'll be deferred to the next meeting. At the bottom of page 4, 2012-547 will be heard, as well as 2012-548 on the top of page 5. Minor modifications in the middle of page 5, MM1217 will be heard. And at the bottom of page 5, 2012-525 will also be heard. And on page 6, those 2 ordinances, 2011-363 and 2012-141, will be deferred due to no report. All right, so page 2 at the bottom, E1259. If Brenda's in the audience, come up and then state your name and address for the record. Our court reporter will swear you in. Then I'll have staff introduce the item.
Brenda Ezel, 3560 Cardinal Point Drive, Suite 202, Jacksonville 32257. I'm here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, and you're an attorney?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Staff, if you'd introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application for zoning exception E1257 is for property at 926 Arlington Road. This is in a shopping center just north of Arlington Expressway. The request, as noticed, was for an establishment or facility which includes retail sale and service of all alcoholic beverages, including liquor, beer, or wine, for on-premises consumption or off-premises consumption, or both. Just to be clear, this is actually a request for a package store, so this would be off-premises consumption only. That's all they're asking for. The property is zoned CCG2. As I said, it's developed with a shopping center that dates back to the 1950s. It's gone through a couple of rehabs through the years. We believe that given the occupancy level in the shopping center, I believe it hovers around 30% right now, that granting this exception would promote the commercial infill policies, goals, and objectives of the comprehensive plan. As far as the character of the area, and I know there's going to be some neighbors that are going to speak in opposition to this, but from a planning standpoint, this is pretty much an ideal location for this type of use if you were to consider the criteria. It meets the distance requirements to the nearest churches or schools. It's not adjacent to any residential areas. And on numerous borders, it's surrounded by CCG2 zoning, and that particular zoning district would support this use by right. Given those considerations, we believe that this would be a good location. It's in the lower right-hand corner of the shopping center, closest to the Arlington Expressway interchange. So it is out of the way, if you want to call it that. I believe there's a daycare that's up to the north. However, that daycare does not benefit from the distance requirements, so that's why there's no waiver. There are some churches in the area, and there's a church, the closest one I'm familiar with is directly to the west of the property on the other side of Rogero Road. However, that one is, it's more than 500 feet away, so like I say, it meets the distance requirements. And with that, we believe that this is an appropriate location. We are recommending approval subject to one condition, and it's essentially the same as it is in the staff report, but I'll just read it into the record. The hours of operation shall be limited as follows: Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you.
All right. Are you familiar with an agreement with that condition?
Yes, sir. We've agreed to that.
Okay. And as you're probably aware, we have a number of cards here in opposition, so I'll give you some time right now to speak to it, and then at the end I'll give you some time to rebut anything that was mentioned by the opposition.
Thank you. I attended the Arlington CPAC meeting, and I understand the neighborhood's concerns about crime in the area. However, it is the shopping center owners' understanding, since they took ownership, that they've enhanced the look of the property, and they're also trying to fill in the shopping center, which they think would cut back or cut down on some of the loitering that I think some of the people are going to speak to. And I also want to reiterate that this shopping center is surrounded on all sides by CCG2, and we don't think there's really a better place to put a package store. So I'll just be here for questions.
Okay. I appreciate it. Let me just mention real quickly, there's a few speakers cards here that have indicated they're not going to speak, but they are in opposition. Eddie Parsons is in opposition to E1259, but has indicated that he doesn't want to speak. Dale Parsons is in opposition. And then Maria Kondaxis, and I apologize if I messed that up, but is also here in opposition but does not want to speak. And then there's some speaker cards here that I'm going to call out. Since we do have a number of people here, I'm going to use the timer. So try to keep it short and to the 3 minutes so that we can make sure that we have a chance to hear everybody's comments.
Mr. Chairman, before you go with the public speakers, there is a petition that was handed to me. I don't know if you guys have a copy of it, but there are numerous folks in the area that have signed in opposition. And also, your packet should include numerous emails that we've received in opposition to this project.
Do you know if those petitions are in this packet that you handed out right now? Okay. If you could just pass that around just so the commission can see it. And are we okay on the timer as far as using that? Okay. First speaker is Pastor Ralph Flowers. Is that correct? If you could just state your name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
Yes, sir. Ralph Flowers. I reside at 3580 Simca Drive West.
Sir, would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I am a pastor in the Arlington area. I've been in our area for over 23 years. I've raised my children in the Arlington area. I have seen our community go down. I've seen the progress, and the progress has not been good as far as I'm concerned. I've seen good ministries relocate because of the circumstances sometime of what's put in around their church. And I'm in here to voice my opposition to the locality of this liquor store. It's sandwiched between 3 churches, and there is a daycare and I know what's going to be said, that it's legal, but I'm not talking about legality here. I'm talking about expediency, what's best for our community. And this is not best. I want a better. I loved Arlington. Listen, we'd be gone from it if I didn't. And I expect you men probably hopefully carry it in your heart. It's more than just a few dollars or one particular business going in. And we support the businesses in our area. But our entire church and our community is in opposition to this because there are going to be boys and girls walking around behind that liquor store, and there's a church right across the street, and our church is right behind it. And say what you will, that's not going to help my community at all. And we want to progress. We don't want to digress. And you know what a liquor store will bring in. Use your imagination. But I hope you'll take it into consideration. And now I'm not talking, again, about legality. I'm talking about what's right for our people and what's right for our community. Any questions?
No, thank you very much. And there will be a time when we get into discussion, we may bring you back up, but I appreciate your time. Next, I have a speaker's card for Barbara Cherry. Just state your name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
Barbara Cherry, 8821 Ivy Road, 32216.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I don't want to take up your valuable time. I just want to go on record stating that I oppose this too. I was raised in Arlington. I attend a church in Arlington, and I know how detrimental it can be for, like you said, kids walking past the neighborhood. I just want you to know that I agree with the reasons against it that have been presented and will be presented by my fellow community members. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. All right, next I got a speaker's card from Albert Cherry. Just name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
Albert G. Cherry, 8821 Ivy Road, 32216.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Affirm.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I very seldom come down here. I've lived in Jacksonville South Side since 1959 by choice after escaping the crime of Chicago. And I'm down here and I'm looking at my Arlington neighborhood and my neighborhood, and I see the infiltration of these alcohol stores, the late nights, the nightclubs that are illegal, that's saying that they're restaurants, the Village Inn. This to me is just another one of these. It's not about law. It's about a quality of life issue for me. I worked for 25 years in HRS, Department of Labor, rehabilitating people and putting them back to work. Tell me about substance abuse. And this is the worst possible place to put it, given the nature of the community that's around there with Burt Road. You're asking for nothing but a disaster if this goes through, in my opinion. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Earl Maddox. State your name and address, and court reporter will swear you in.
Earl Maddox, 1321 Morgana Road, 32211.
Sir, would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'll probably be reiterating what everyone else is saying, but in all my life, I've never really seen a neighborhood that was improved by the addition of a liquor store. Usually it draws things down. There are exceptions where it's not quite as bad. They use a comparison in here for Merrill Road and the Publix up off, rather for Accessory and the Publix up on Merrill. I ask that you look at the neighborhoods when you're making this, and you'll see that that is not a comparison. The comparison where this is proposed is a high crime neighborhood, high drugs. I would wager to say that if it is approved, the quantities of booze sold in there will not be in filths to take home for consumption. It will be in pints and half pints for hip pocket in the parking lot. That's based on what I have seen in other communities similar to this. As far as, again, I've never seen one that added to the quality of life of a neighborhood. I've also never found an instance where businesses they were just striving to relocate by a liquor store. So the statement inside here that says that it won't be detrimental to the addition of new businesses, I guess you would have to ask yourself in there, what kind of new businesses? What kind of impact will they have? And as far as the other two people that have spoken, the pastor otherwise, there is a time when something may be legal, it may be within the confines of the law, but it just flat is not right. And I think this is one of those exceptions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker card I have is for Diego Pelez. Just name and address and court portal swear you in.
My name is Diego Pelez. The address is 6651 Crestline Drive, Jacksonville, Florida 32211, and I represent the church located at this place.
Sir, would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Like I said before, I represent the church that is located at this place. We are close to 700 members. We have probably 30% of youth people that is between 13 and 20 years old. We also have around 10% of children that is between 7 and 11 years old. Also, we have services on Thursdays at 7:30, and that's going to be within the same hours that this liquor store is going to be. Also, services on Sunday. So definitely, this liquor store will affect our safety, moral order, and comfort. We have been working so hard for Arlington Road for the last 7 years, so we want to keep the same place safe for our children and our family. So I'll ask you all to vote against this project.
Thank you very much. Ladd Hawkins, just name and address and court portal swear you in.
Ladd Hawkins, 1924, Holly Oaks, Lake Road West, 32225.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm here to oppose E1259. I'm here representing the Arlington Beaches CPAC. I sit on the Arlington Beaches CPAC Land Use and Zoning Subcommittee, and at our meeting Monday night, we voted unanimously to oppose this. The representative who was here tonight was there and spoke to us as well. And I'm a planner. I've lived in Jacksonville since '69, and in those some 43 years, I've been involved in the development of our comp plan that got adopted in 1990. I worked on the old Arlington NAP steering committee. I served on the Arlington Beaches Visioning 2030 plan recently that got adopted, and I also served on the Rojero Town Center plan. So I really understand Arlington. I've lived in Arlington for 43 years. And as a planner and somebody who lives in Arlington, I can tell you this is not a good idea. I think, as was pointed out earlier, when you do an exception, the thing you want to say is, does this promote the public health, safety, welfare, morals, order, comfort, convenience, appearance, prosperity, and general welfare? Now, if you think about that as a whole, is this going to make Arlington a better place? No. Now, there are lots of places in Arlington this could legally go, and we couldn't stop them. But this is one of the few places we can stop them. Arlington is at a tipping point. All of you are aware of that. We don't need any more of this. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Roberta Thomas. Just name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
I have some handouts, if someone would distribute to the members, please.
Okay, yeah, if you'll just take them right up there to Ms. Johnson.
Oh.
Or, perfect, even better. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize for that. My name is Roberta Thomas, 3470 Lensick Drive West, Jacksonville, Florida.
Would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Yes, I am the chairperson of the Rohero Town Center. I am also the president of Fort Caroline Club Estate South Civic Association. I'm a member of the Greater Arlington Civic Council. I have been on the steering committee of the Old Arlington Neighborhood Action Plan. I'm a former member of the CPAC 2. In regards to the Rohero Town Center, this particular Arlington Plaza is the commercial node at the end of our town center, and we have a vision plan for that. And this vision plan incorporates the desire to grow the community and grow the commercialism in this area for family-friendly retail businesses of that nature. We are not trying to envision pawn shops and liquor stores. And this is not going to promote the welfare, the safety, or the good of the community. Now, in the handouts I gave to you, I hope you'll look at this, because these are facts, and they do meet the criteria here. About the safety issue, the Planning Department staff report was very remiss in not addressing the fact that this is a hotbed of crime. Jack's Journey denoted that this was a hot spot, and you have the papers in front of you. You see the orange area. All around Burt Road and this Arlington Plaza is a hot spot of crime. I took the crime statistics straight off of the JSO website for the last 90 days. This is factual. You have 57 crimes. Now, that's just the ones reported. You've got 2 murders within the last 90 days. Actually, there were more than that if you go back a few more days. Into January, February, there was a drive-by shooting. You've got assaults. You've got larcenies. If you look at the charts, you will see that they are taking place on the premises of Arlington Plaza. This does not promote the welfare of our community to have alcohol and drugs into the area. We have homeless and vagrants all over this area. They're just simply going to go there and get themselves some liquor and water and hang around. This will also discourage good businesses from coming into the shopping center. This is an exception. It does not have the right legally until you guys vote to give it to it. It does not meet the criteria for being a good exception. We have 2/10 of a land use already in Arlington as it is. In the NAP, which I was on the committee, we discouraged any intensification of the zonings or the land uses of the area. I would ask that you please deny this. It does not promote the safety of the people. It does not promote the welfare of the people there. Burt Road's got its problems. The homeless have their problems. Thank you, and have a good day.
Real quick, what's the extent of the Rohero Town Center?
It is from Fort Caroline Road. It's almost 3 miles. Fort Caroline Road and Rohero intersection all the way down to the Arlington Road intersection down there. We go down to Arlington Road where we're trying to put a roundabout in, guys, but that's another day and more money and another speech. But it does include, we have to have a commercial node, and that is our main commercial node at Arlington Plaza, and the other one is up at Fort Caroline Road.
Okay, so it's that whole corridor almost.
Yes, it's a corridor. Our town center is different from the most traditional town centers in which you think of only 2 or 3 blocks. We have a town center more like the Mayport Town Center, which is actually a corridor, which was allowed by the city council to be a corridor, a commercial corridor. And a lot of people think that those are homes all along Rogero Road. Those are commercially zoned parcels. They're little tiny small parcels, but they're CO parcels. We can't do much with them. But we are working forward. There are many things that you guys do not see. Bless you. That we, really bless you. We are trying so hard to pull Arlington up. We have worked sort of in the closet, doing roundabout designs with pro bono help with other businesses, trying to pull Arlington up. And to have something like this come in, as I told one person, this is like throwing kerosene onto a raging fire of crime. It does not help our community. It does not help the welfare, and it's surely not going to attract people over into our area.
Right.
I could keep on going, guys. I'm a teacher.
I think the point's been well made. And what we're talking about is the southernmost part of the Rogero Town.
I'm aware. It's right there on Arlington Expressway.
But for my own information, I was trying to make sure I understood the exact location. So it's sort of, if you're coming off Arlington, this would be the first part of the Rogero Town Center area?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
As far as a commercial node goes.
Right. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote to deny.
Steve Matchett. I apologize if I messed that up. Just state your name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
You got it right, Mr. Chairman. Steve Matchett, 1005 Rio St. John's Drive, 32211.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission members. It's been more than a decade or two since I stood before this body and addressed a lot of issues. Most of those were representing Arlington at the time. As Mr. Hawkins and others before you, I probably have a pedigree of land use and zoning involvement over that time, along with my Arlington residency and history that would qualify me as one that's very impassioned for the development and future of Arlington. And that's one thing I'd like you to hear in the voices of the pastors and the residents that you've heard before you already, is that there is a passion that still exists in Arlington, and one that cares about its future and is trying to do something in a positive vein. From a zoning standpoint, the staff report and the staff evaluation is almost technically consistent on a point-by-point basis. A case could be made for this type of use in a CCG1 location in a lot of instances, and some already exist in Arlington, especially East Arlington. However, the sum of those criteria, whereas Mr. Hawkins pointed out, do not meet the overall welfare and promotion of the Arlington community interest. A lot of that has to do with that area across the street, which is directly across the street. This is a rather large shopping center, probably the second largest in Arlington behind Town and Country. And being at that tip right there makes it within just a few feet walking distance across from the Burt Road complexes, which are featured very regularly on the news. It also just escapes the church school distance variance requirements. Christ the King is 548 feet away by the survey. That survey, depending on where it's taken from the front door, from what part of the center, where this piece is located within the center, can make a difference as to whether a variance is required for this also. Assuming that the survey is correct, to relocate it into a CCG, which also is surrounding this property on a zoning map, it looks technically okay. But a lot of those CCG uses are hearty restaurants or a fast food restaurant. They've been there for a while. And if this place really wanted to be located in that area, then it could step right in and do that. One of those is actually a moving and storage place, and several are on the frontage road of the expressway. I also presume that if you were to locate in some of those CCG2s, you would then invoke some of the need for a distance variance from those 7 or 8 churches and schools that have been identified in the survey. Just would love the commission to consider that to go forward, that this does not aid in that process. And I also
was remiss in saying that I am president of the Old Arlington Association Incorporated, and am representing them today also in recommending denial on the application.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I got one more speaker's card here for Gary Dickinson.
Gary Dickinson, 4963 Beach Boulevard.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Well, I was actually here to speak on a different issue, but this is an area I'm very familiar with. I'm a lifelong resident of Arlington. I've been a consumer of the Arlington Plaza ever since I was probably about 2 or 3 years old going up there, so I've seen it from its heyday to where it is today. But I want to look at something maybe a little bit different. Right now, we have probably the largest number of traffic fatalities taking place in the area of pedestrians and bicycles. Most of those are people that are intoxicated. I will tell you, when I go around the city of Jacksonville, the area that I encounter the most pedestrians and bicyclists that are intoxicated and are out in the roadway is this area on Arlington Road. This occurs when I go through there in the evening. I know what's available right now with beer and wine at the gas stations in the area. There's also a motel across the Arlington Expressway that has a lot of foot traffic that heads over in this direction. I'm afraid that the sales of liquor will just increase the intoxication of these individuals. And again, we're going to see more fatalities in the area of pedestrians and bicycles if we allow a liquor store like this to go in. I stand in opposition of this, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here today to speak to E1259? All right, seeing none, Mrs. L.
I just have 3 points that I would like to make in response to the comments. First, I don't think that anyone has provided any empirical evidence that a package store is directly correlated to criminal behavior. Second, I'd like to add that one of the speakers pointed out aptly that this is the largest commercial node in this area of Arlington, which makes it probably the most appropriate place to have a package store, where people will come buy, purchase, and leave and go to their respective homes. And thirdly, I'd like to point out that with the increase in the number of occupants in a shopping center, the number of loiterers or vagrants should probably decrease. So if anyone has any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you. All right. If there's no one else to speak, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to commission. I guess I'll start. I've got a couple questions for planning staff. What consideration do you guys typically look at when you're looking at these as far as crime and crime in the area? And I mean, is that something that you look at when you're deciding where these go, or is that sort of outside what you would consider the requirements for the exception?
I mean, in the department's review, I would say we would look at probably incidents specific to the property, but it is difficult to correlate specifically any kind of increase in crime as a result of a package store going in. I think we're not evaluating it that way, but no, as a general rule, we are looking at it. Our review, we evaluated the location. Again, as was stated, this is the major commercial node for this area. This is a larger overall shopping center. I believe it's over 50,000, the total square feet for the center. There's numerous vacant tenant spaces within this center currently, and the surrounding zoning, for the most part, met the distance requirements, but the surrounding zoning, again, CCG2, which does allow it by right. Basically, our review was kind of an amalgamation of those concepts.
Okay. And in regards to, I heard a number of references to different churches in the area. There was a survey performed, is that correct? A liquor survey or liquor distance survey? I think.
That's correct. They submitted
Yeah.
a liquor survey.
And is it just a 500-foot one? No, it's 1,500 feet.
The surveys always are required to be 1,500 feet. However, the actual distance requirement is 500 feet from the liquor store premises, any part of the structure of the liquor store, to the grounds of any church or school.
And that was my next question, was this is done from the nearest, I guess, exterior part of the building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And is the same waiver, is the same distance requirement there for CCG2, where if they were across the street and were within 500 feet of a church, do they have to come then and get a waiver of liquor distance?
Correct. The distance requirement would apply to any property.
Okay. So the allowed by right in CCG2 is allowed by right as long as they're within the required distance from a church or school?
Correct.
Okay. And I know we've talked about at length with previous exceptions in CCG1 and CCG2 for schools, and not wanting to allow that to all of a sudden, not allow anything else in there. But what you said earlier as far as they don't have the right, I guess, to fall within that is because the fact that they are in CCG1, is that correct? Because you made a comment when you introduced it that the daycare that's in the north end.
Right, daycares are not considered schools by definition of the zoning code. Also, churches or schools which are not the principal use on the land in which they sit, if the property is zoned commercial, would not get the distance requirement. Right. The two closest churches in this particular case are, in fact, standalone churches and would receive the benefit if the liquor store was less than 500 feet away.
Okay. And then do you consider at all the other liquor stores in the area and the amount of liquor stores? And I don't know to what degree that applies here, but is that something that you consider as far as how many other liquor stores are nearby or around, or is that sort of outside what the guidelines require?
One of the conditions for an exception is to consider the volume and number of particular places. It appears that the staff analysis did include some consideration about the number of liquor stores and did not find that many actually in the immediate vicinity. I believe that's on page 6 of the staff report. So I don't doubt that there's a good many places out there that serve beer and wine. We heard some testimony to that, but I'm not aware of a proliferation of locations where one can purchase liquor for off-premises consumption.
All right, and the last question I have, which is sort of the, I guess, bigger question, I want to get those out of the way. We've talked a lot about vision plans and how much work goes into these vision plans, and how much community input goes into that. I'm not knowing enough about the vision plan that's in place for this area. When you look at how this fits in with those vision plans that are put together, is it just that it's not specific enough to this type of use that it doesn't conflict with the vision plan? Or I guess if you could speak a little bit more to your thoughts on how this use fits in with the vision plan for that whole sort of corridor area that was mentioned.
Well, from two perspectives, I guess one would be from an infill perspective, redevelopment, occupation again. This is of a vacant center, and one of the goals of the vision plan was to get new commercial uses into the existing centers that were vacant or tending or trending towards more blight. From a zoning perspective, they clearly, they addressed intensifications of uses unless it would be demonstrated that it's a benefit to the neighborhood. In our view, the redevelopment infill aspect for the vacant center and the locational criteria in our evaluation in being a commercial node, CCG2, plus it's part of a larger commercial shopping center. It's not a standalone liquor store. Again, those were the components based upon our evaluation. I did have a discussion with the Neighborhood Action Plan Community Planner, Ms. Ransom. We discussed this and I want to say it was probably back in end of September, late September. But I mean, her concerns were satisfied that this was not inconsistent with the neighborhood action plan. The feeling was that if you're going to have a liquor store, this would probably be the one location where it would be okay. You don't have the conflicts with residential uses. You're at arterial and collector higher intersections and interchanges surrounded by CCG2. The center is, you know, trending to becoming more vacant and something that is, you know, on that location. We looked at the scale of the use too. This is a small kind of end unit of the center. We did have concerns. I think there was a sweepstakes place immediately next door, which gave us concerns. That's no longer operational. But from the neighborhood action plan overall, we didn't have any major concerns from the community planner that basically reviewed for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zill. Through the chair to Mrs. Zill. Could you tell us a little more about the existing center? We've heard the vacancy rate, and that there's a daycare in there as well. But the owner, you're representing the ownership, if I'm not mistaken, of the strip center.
Yes, sir.
Could you describe a little more of what's in the strip center currently, please?
Right now, the largest tenant is a Rose's department store. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it used to be a Food Lion. And Food Lion, I'm not sure what year it closed up, but I think it's been closed for several years. But now it's a Rose's, and it would be a pretty good location for a larger grocery store type unit to be there. But at this point, it's a Rose's, sort of a discount variety store. And so there's no other good location in the center to have a use like a liquor store except adjacent to what would have been a grocery store. There are about 30% of the units, aside from the largest tenant, that are in occupancy right now. So they are trying really hard to get the center up to full capacity with tenants. And the daycare center is a standalone building, which is completely on the very northernmost part of the shopping center. And across and around the shopping center are restaurants and other heavy commercial uses.
Thank you, ma'am. How does the inclusion of the use that's by exception going to further the goals of filling in those vacancies that are there now? Or do you view it as, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but there's been comments and there's positions stated that this would be an impediment to other businesses wanting to come in there. How does a package store not inhibit or deter folks from relocating into this area, this commercial node, in your opinion?
I don't necessarily believe that the location of a package store in any shopping center either would prohibit or encourage another user. However, I think when you have a shopping center that reaches a better capacity of occupancy, that tends to drive more tenants to the location because of traffic.
Through the chair, first to Ms. Thomas and then to Mr. Hawkins on deck, if you could. Ms. Roberta Thomas, if you don't mind terribly. I'm very familiar with the town center vision plan, but if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Thomas, that's more of an infrastructure item, and maybe I just misheard you as I was making notes, but could you cite either in the town center vision plan or the NAP, whatever it might be, where is that conflict specifically dealing with the types of businesses that are desired by the community visions, so that we can have that reference? Because I found it as kind of maybe of a gross negligence until Mr. Kelly had mentioned his consultation with Mr. Ransom. Typically we would find, and the staff is not accustomed to being that, that's why it was a little bit of a surprise. I saw no conflict or some comment about that, so if you wouldn't mind maybe citing the proper area where the types of stores or the type of businesses, that would be helpful for me.
Thank you very, very much for calling me back up here, because I was sitting out there just chomping at the bit, wanting to speak. In regards to the town center, the Rohero Town Center, and forgive me, Mr. Batchett, but I'll take some liberty here, and I'll say that I also worked with the Arlington Road Town Center, and both of these two town centers dovetailed together right there at Arlington Road and Rohero. And in both of those town centers, there were a huge number of public people who came and filled out surveys, what they wanted for the community, what they didn't want for the community. And over it was that they envisioned and wanted family restaurants, family retail, good quality stores, shopping stores, places, go-to stores, go-to places that we don't have to go out to Tinseltown, or we don't have to go to Orange Park or to Avenues to go and do our shopping. And those things are in there. Now, in the old Arlington Knapp, I worked on that for 4 years, and that was morphed. I won't get into that too much, but it was morphed by the planning department very, very strongly. But inside that Knapp, even now, and I have a copy of it, it specifically does, in fact, address that there is to be no intensification of the zonings and the land uses already in the old Arlington Knapp area. As you may know, we have a great deal of CCG2 in Arlington, and that is pretty much what's killing Arlington, because we have so many junkyards and storage units and things of that nature. And this comes back from before consolidation days, when we had that kind of zoning. Way back, Arlington was not consolidated, and it got grandfathered in. We've got a problem with that. This shopping mall may have some CCG2, but it's got some CCG1, and we don't need to intensify anything more than what we've already got, and that is what is inside the wording of the old Arlington Knapp, because I went and looked at that before I came. I was going to talk about it, but I only had 3 minutes. I don't know if I answered all those questions fully, but I can continue on. Just ask me away.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. You did, and that's I want to make sure I was looking, because again, the infrastructure, while the surveys and the efforts that were done with the civic groups and the community on the town center plan, the end result, what was documented, is the types of infrastructure beautification improvements that
Right.
way. I kept searching. I'm up here as you're talking, looking at the documents again.
The wording, we literally had wording in the old Arlington Knapp, and this is a long story, but I'll try to make it short. And it got, the Knapp got morphed, and the members on the steering committee, and Mr. Ladd Hawkins was one that can attest to this, the wording got tweaked and changed in the planning department. And we, the steering committee, did not bless that wording, but there was wording explicitly in the old Arlington Knapp that said no more exceptions, no more daycares, no more administrative deviations, no more waivers. We've had a stomach full of it. We've reached our limit. It needs to stop. That wording was explicitly in there, and somehow it walked off just before it went to council.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Mr. Hawkins, I had mentioned that you were on deck as a member of the subcommittee from CPAC. You cited the, I don't know if you said unanimous or not, but the recommendation for denial from the CPAC subcommittee. Could you elaborate on some of the findings of that committee? Because one, and I'm not picking on the Greater Arlington one, all the CPACs, they tend to just send letters sometimes to say we oppose but don't back it up. And I know you're a man of great knowledge of planning, and just wondered if you could elaborate on, from your position, more than just the fact that you opposed it.
I brought the letter and I gave it to this lady here. I can. Do you not have copies of this letter in your file? This is dated October 9th, 2012, and it mentions that the proposed use will become an attractive nuisance that will draw undesirable and illegal activity to the area. The surrounding area is a crime hotspot, and the proposed use will aggravate the stability of the marginal neighborhoods. The intersection of Burt Road and Blackwood Road, lying 660 feet east of the proposed use and within the walking distance site, is specifically marked by the Jacksonville Sheriff Office as a focus of criminal activity. And you asked earlier whether crime was something the planning department considered. One of the consideration and exception is the health, safety, and welfare. Now, I don't know if that isn't crime. I don't know what the hell it is, but that's something that should be considered. We went on to say the proposed exception is contrary to the witness expressed by the community in conjunction with the development of the Old Arlington Neighborhood Action Plan to not allow exceptions for any purpose. The proposed use will be detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. Specifically, there is a blood plasma center in the mental health agency and a JSO, and I'm not sure if we're right about this, work release across the catty corner across the expressway. The proposed use will be detrimental to the revitalization of the shopping center and surrounding commercial. And we are concerned that what is going to move next to a liquor store? You know, is it going to be, you know, one of these internet cafes, or is it going to be a nice family restaurant? It's more likely to be an internet cafe, which we don't want any more of. And so, you know, we feel like, you know, you put a bad seed in there, and I think it was pointed out earlier, Arlington has plenty of CCG2 places where this could legally go and we couldn't stop it. Let's not add any more that we can. When we can stop it, let's stop it.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. I appreciate you elaborating on the letter. I apologize for not having it. We each have about a half a ream of paper that was thrown at us right before the case. So, again, I appreciate you expounding on it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
To my fellow commissioners, just so the audience knows, we do have computers up here and we're not playing solitaire. We're looking at maps and we're Googling. And I did Google the Old Arlington Neighborhood Action Plan, and on page 57, it says, the JPDD should not support intensification of commercial uses through rezonings, PUDs, and exceptions unless it can demonstrate there will be a benefit to the neighborhood. It also encourages infill opportunities at the Town and Center Shopping Center, and it speaks to encouraging the reputation and uses in the Old Arlington area as perhaps a niche market for medical services. So because of those reasons, it is clear to me that this project would not benefit the neighborhood. While we might be able to argue if it's a detriment or not, it will certainly not benefit the neighborhood and does not meet the requirements of the Neighborhood Action Plan. And for that reason, I cannot support this application.
Any other discussion? Any motions?
Sure. As an Arlington resident who had a liquor store moved across the road and by this commission, as I'm sitting on the commission, I've been keenly observing the Sahara Liquors on Monument Road and its relocation into an active, fairly full strip center. But again, I'm just kind of questioning the glaring, in my word, glaring omission of the NAP on this. And Sean, you mentioned talking with Lisa about it. And again, I'm just trying to get up to speed with that there. I think if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Gabriel, it's all the criteria of the exception need to be met. Is that not incorrect?
To the extent that it's applicable,
okay.
Yeah. And so you need to take that into account.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, my fellow commissioners, and through the chair, I move a denial of E-1259, specifically for a lack of finding for subcriterion number 5. Will the proposed use have a detrimental effect on the future development of the contiguous properties or the general area?
All right, I apologize. We've closed the public hearing with the motion, so I'm going to go ahead and take the vote on the motion. But I did want to address you since you were standing there.
No, I just wanted to point out that Ms. Ransom's report was in the package for the Neighborhood Action Plan.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I have a motion and a second to deny.
I apologize because we're taking time.
You're fine.
I do not like getting misinformation, and I take pride in going through and doing my homework before these meetings. I don't have Miss Lisa Ransom's letter in my packet, so now I'm getting a little more than perturbed. Doesn't change my motion, but just as a point of information, I'd like it made known to staff. E-1259 package, initials PMD at the top. I don't have anything from Ms. Ransom, and my motion stands.
All right, well, let's address the motion. I've got a motion and a second for E1259 to deny. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion is denied. There's no opposition. All right, thank you for your time, everyone. Moving on. All right. We are now at the top of page 3, E1260. Mr. Joseph Van Rooy.
Or good afternoon, Tom Ingram, 2223 Oak Street, Jacksonville, and I'm substituting for Joe Van Roy this afternoon. And the staff have a letter of authorization for me on file.
All right, not a problem. Staff, if you would introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application for zoning exception E1260 is for property at 2815 St. John's Bluff Road, just north of Beach Boulevard. The request is to allow for outside storage, subject to the Part 4 standards in the IBP zoning district. Staff reviewed the application, and we note that the property is already developed with a building and a business that's there, and they would like to have a small area where they can store trailers and boats out back. We feel that this would be appropriate. It does not conflict with the comprehensive plan. We have, the Planning Commission has approved a couple of similar exceptions up and down the road in the past. We did, in fact, include an analysis of the St. John's Bluff corridor study, which is in the staff report, and we found that it would not be in conflict with that. Subject to that, we are recommending approval subject to 2 conditions, and I will read those into the record. First, the outside storage of trailers or boats. Let me try that again. The outside storage of trailers or boats on trailers shall occur only on that certain portion of the property as depicted on the site plan dated October 11, 2012. Second condition, there shall be a 6-foot high, 95% opaque fence with gated and secured entrance around the perimeter of the proposed outside storage area. And with that, we support the application. Thank you.
All right, you have a recommendation for approval with a few revised conditions. Are you aware of those, in agreement with them?
Yes, and we are in agreement with them.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, not really, unless y'all have any questions.
Is there anyone else here to speak to E1260? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the Commission.
Through the Chair to Commission, I move approval of E1260 as conditioned.
I have a motion and a second to approve E1260 as conditioned and amended. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good to see you walking around better, too.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Moving on, the rest of page 3 has been deferred. Page 4 at the bottom, 2012-547. Mr. Leonard. Name and address?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tyler Leonard, 1701 Prudential Drive, Jacksonville, Florida, representing the owner.
And do we need to swear him in? Jason, how does this work? Okay. We don't? Okay. And my authority as the chair, can I swear? No, I'm kidding.
And I'll make myself available for any questions.
All right. Staff, if you'd introduce it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application for rezoning ordinance 2012-547 is for property at 13333 Lanier Road on the north side. And the request is to rezone some property from PUD and residential to the PBF1 zoning district to allow for school expansion. Staff reviewed the application. We feel that this is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the character of the area. Any construction that occurs adjacent to residential areas would be required to comply with the appropriate buffering. And so we feel that this is supportable, and we are recommending approval.
Thank you. No conditions, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Is there anyone else here to speak to 2012-547? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of R 2012-547.
I've got a motion and a second to approve 2012-547. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. On to the top of page 5, 2012-548. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application for rezoning ordinance 2012-548 is for property at 2445 San Diego Road. This is a request to rezone property from CRO to PBF1, again to allow for school expansion. Similar to my comments before, this would be consistent with the comprehensive plan and the character of the area, and any development would be required to meet appropriate buffering when adjacent to residential, and we are recommending approval with no conditions.
All right. And I assume, Mr. Leonard, you're just questions only? Or anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am available for questions.
Anyone else here to speak to 2012-548? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of 2012-548.
I have a motion and a second to approve 2012-548. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries as well. All right, MM 1217. Mr. Debenau, I do not see in the audience, but okay. State your name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
Heather Reynolds for the applicant. My address is 1 Independent Drive, Suite 1200.
All right, staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is application for minor modification to a plan unit development MM-12-17, which requests to convert 72 townhome lots to 33 detached single-family lots. There is no other change to the PUD requested. This area of the PUD was originally for residential development. The southern half was for the development of a church, which did get built. Staff has reviewed this application, finds it is consistent with the 3 criteria. The modification does not change the approved use of land for residential use. As I stated before, the total number of dwellings will decrease. The site plan and the road layout will remain similar to the approved PUD site plan. We find that, as I said, the streets are in the same general location and there's no change to any conditions. The department is recommending approval of MM-2012-17 without condition.
All right, you have a staff recommendation for approval. Anything you would like to add? All right, is anyone else here to speak to MM-1217? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of MM-1217.
I have a motion and a second to approve MM-1217. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And last but not least, 2012-525. Mr. Allman. State your name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
Eric Allman, 3609 Hendricks Avenue, Jacksonville, Florida, 32207.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to point out that you have a revised site plan dated October 10th in your package that goes along with this development. This application for plan unit development 2012-525 seeks to rezone approximately 7 acres from PUD to PUD. The rezoning is being sought so the property can be developed as a home for the elderly or a memory care facility. The building will be single-story and not exceed 35,999 square feet in area. The PUD will also allow a maximum 5,000 square foot office addition for the Dana B. Kenyon Company. There will be a cross-access easement agreements between the assisted living facility and the Kenyon Company. Staff has reviewed the application and finds it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. This is in the CGC functional land use category, which does allow for housing for the elderly as well as offices, business offices for contractors. Again, we've reviewed it for internal and external compatibility and find it is consistent with those criteria. We are recommending approval of 2012-525, subject to the 6 conditions in your report, with the modification to condition 3 that this is the revised site plan dated October 10th, 2012. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of, and they're very minor, just to clarify, conditions number 5 and 6. I don't know if the department has it. If not, I can. Okay, department can maybe read them into the record. They're just clarifying, like there's a notice requirement pursuant to a section of the code, so we'll have them read it.
All right, I'm sorry. So condition 5 would read that the subject property shall provide a minimum 20-foot wide building setback shall be provided and maintained along the east property line. A 10-foot wide uncomplimentary buffer meeting the requirements of section 656.1216 of the zoning code shall be provided and maintained within said building setback. And then condition 6, the property owner shall record an airport notice zone acknowledgement in the public records of Duval County, Florida, prior to issuance of building permits as required pursuant to section 656.1010 of the zoning code. A copy shall be provided to the Planning and Development Department at the time of verification of substantial compliance. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Alman, are you familiar in agreement with, I guess, the conditions as they've been modified?
Yes, sir. We've read the staff report and take no exception to the approval and/or the conditions that they're forth in.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing further to add, but I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
All right. Anyone else here today to speak to 2012-525? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of 2012-525 as conditioned and amended and read into the record.
I have a motion and a second to approve 2012-525 as conditioned and amended. All in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we are at the end of the agenda. Any new business? Meeting adjourned. I just wanted to say.